Now, I think a lot of us can appreciate a good bargain when it comes to fragrances, especially considering the fact that some niche fragrances are like $300, $400, $500, and perhaps even more than that. In today's episode, we're going to be going over 10 cheap, not in terms of quality, but in terms of price, 10 cheap fragrances that smell expensive. I'm excited to give you my thoughts on these 10 fragrances and also let you know which expensive fragrances they smell like, so make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin today's episode and I tell you about these 10 cheap fragrances that smell expensive, what they smell like, how long they last, how accurate I think they are, so on and so forth, I do want to start things off by saying that if you're a fan of fragrance-related content, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Hit the bell icon so you could be notified whenever I do upload future videos to the channel. And of course, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it or if you took something of value from today's episode. Would really mean a lot to me. So, with that being said, let's just go ahead and dive into the video. The first fragrance, and I don't have the original here, I was trying to locate it, but I'm talking about the original Montblanc Legend. I know I'm holding the Spirit bottle, but the original Legend, which is in a black bottle with silver accents, smells like Percival by Parfum de Marly. Now, of course, it's not a carbon copy. This one came out first, and this is actually, and I'm talking about the original Spirit still, that fragrance smells like Fierce by Abercrombie & Fitch. So Fierce is probably the most inexpensive version. Then we have Legend, then we have Percival. The similarity to Percival is only about like 70 or 80%, but if you want to give off more or less the same vibe as Percival, this one, the original Legend, is going to get you about 7 hours on your skin. Great performer. Definitely check it out, especially if you're a fan of that lavender, fresh, modern, gentlemanly vibe. You all know the next one. This one is Cuba Gold. Cuba Gold smells like Le Male by Jean-Paul Gaultier. Le Male is a very popular fragrance composed by Francis Kurkdjian, vanilla, mint, lavender. This can be had, I think, for like $10 or fewer. It was really, really inexpensive. Look online. Nobody is going to I think clone this fragrance or try to produce a counterfeit. It's already so cheap to begin with. Now, the performance on it is only about 6 hours, so it does leave a lot to the imagination, but it is a solid fragrance. The next one smells like a Creed, and Creed fragrances are like $500. This one by Haramain is called Club de Nuit Milestone. Now, Milestone smells very much like Millésime Imperial. Bright, fresh, minty. You do have a little bit of that salted watermelon feel. It's a little bit fruity, definitely has some oceanic tendencies, and this one is way less than $500. So, although a lot of Club de Nuit fragrances have been going for a pretty penny as of late, it's still a lot cheaper than what you would pay for a Creed. And then, of course, up next, we do have two Tom Ford inspirations. These are both by Dossier. The first one is called Powdery Tobacco. Powdery Tobacco is their take on Tobacco Vanille, amazing fragrance. You have the apricot, the cocoa, the spiced vanilla, the tobacco. It's a little powdery, but it definitely has this warm, sweet, coumarinic feel on account of the tonka bean. Really nice, creamy, sophisticated, definitely dressed up and elegant. And then we have their Neroli Portofino inspiration, which is called Citrus Neroli. Citrus Neroli, bright, effervescent, definitely very lively, jubilant. You do have that charismatic and bright citrus in the opening, some smooth woods to sort of ground it. It doesn't really have any aquatic tendencies per se. Now, of course, you can actually go a little bit cheaper than this. You can go for $47.11 by Maurer and Wirtz. But this fragrance is going to give you better longevity. So this is about 8 hours for the powdery tobacco. And then for the citrus neroli, you can expect about 4 or 5 hours. And it's kind of comparable to what you would get from the Tom Ford. Not a very long-lasting fragrance. Next, we have a couple of fragrances by Dua. The first one is Imperial Scottish Lavender. This is their take on Royal English Lavender, which I believe is a discontinued Creed fragrance. And look at the color of the liquid in the bottle. It's really, really dark. And I know if you try to buy the original on an auction website, it's super expensive, but really classy, natural smelling lavender that's in here. And I'm given to understand that it is organic lavender. Definitely would recommend it. Very classy, elegant, refined, a James Bond type of a fragrance. And then we also have hashtag the Meteor, which is their inspired expression of Meteor by Louis Vuitton. Very bright, clean. Some people have said it kind of smells like dryer sheets, so it definitely has that clean, well-groomed personality. Also gets compared a lot to Azzaro Chrome. I actually, if I can reach off camera here for a bit, I actually have my bottle here. You can tell I put quite a dent in this one. I love wearing this one. Both of the duos are going to get you in the vein of 10 hours. Longevity is no slouch. Now we have one by the brand Al Haramain, and this one is called Opulent Saffron. Fantastic take on Tuscan leather by Tom Ford. I believe it's Tuscan leather and not ombre leather, because this one does have a little bit of that raspberry sweetness in there. But the leather vibe is smooth, it's exotic, it's elegant, it's a little bit daring. Performance, again, is going to be about 10 hours on your skin. Amazingly close to the original. Both of the duos are amazingly close. Both of the Dossiers are close. This one is a little bit different from Le Mans, especially when you do a side-by-side. You realize that they're definitely like 85% similar, but they do have their own idiosyncrasies, I suppose. And then you have a couple of fragrances from Afnan. This one I reviewed recently. It's called Supremacy and Oud. This is their take on Oud for Greatness by Initio. However, one of them is a little more spicy, one of them is a little more earthy, but the similarities are still like 95% there. Incredible longevity, no slouch in the longevity department. But the same thing can be said about Oud for Greatness. Oud for Greatness gives me like 10 plus or 12 plus hours. Such an amazingly long-lasting fragrance. The saffron, the agarwood that's in there, touch of sweetness in the base. And then we have a fragrance that is highly sought after. I'm talking about the original, but this fragrance does such an amazing job. And this is the original Supremacy by Afnan. This is their take on Creed's Aventus. You guys know all about Aventus: pineapple, apple, bergamot, blackcurrant, birch tar, Moroccan jasmine, pink berries, vanilla, so on and so forth, right? Well, this fragrance smells very similar to Creed Aventus. I would say the Afnan Supremacy is a bit more on the lemony side of things. So you get a little bit more lemon in there as opposed to like a full-blown, pineapple, juicy vanilla birch tar thing. But it does come very, very close to Creed Aventus. And then, with that also comes the discussion of like batch variations. And it's like, well, which Aventus are you comparing it to? So I would imagine there are some batch variations on the market that are a little bit more fruity, thus lending themselves to a closer comparison to this one. But in any case, 10 inexpensive fragrances that smell expensive, and I am calling them inexpensive due to the contrasting price between these and the ones that they're sort of fashioned after. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do consider supporting the channel by subscribing to it. Hit the bell icon and give this video a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.